Welcome to Renegade Conversations. My name is Meryl Cook. I'm an artist, a renegade, and the host and creator of Renegade Conversations. Something I'm very passionate about is what I call wild women, women who in midlife and beyond are embracing their inner wild selves, letting their hair go gray or silver or white or not, and refusing to be sidelined, doing what they love, asserting their right to age and to continue to do meaningful work, inspiring renegade women. My mission is to provide thought-provoking, fearless, and fun discussions with remarkable female rebels who are shaking things up in their respective fields. My hope is to make you question the norms and ignite your own renegade spirit. This episode is sponsored by Dr. Jen Salib-Huber. Jen is a Canadian registered dietitian, naturopathic doctor, and intuitive eating counselor, and she's on a mission to help women manage menopause without diets and food rules. She helps women navigate the physical and emotional changes that happen in perimenopause and menopause, including their search for food freedom and body confidence. Working from a health at every size approach, she teaches women to become intuitive eaters and build body confidence at any stage of midlife. In addition to her one-to-one and group programs, she's the host of the Midlife Feast podcast and community that helps women undiet their lives after 40 so they can nourish a relationship with food that helps them discover the magic of midlife. It's my great pleasure to introduce Lisa LaFlamme today, and I'm just going to read a little bit from her bio. She has a very extensive bio because Lisa LaFlamme has been at the forefront of journalism for over 30 years, tackling some of the biggest issues of our time, traveling the globe, delivering breaking news, and bringing it back home to Canadians. LaFlamme has traveled to some of the world's most dangerous places, and through her extensive war coverage of Iraq, Afghanistan, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Ukraine, has documented the reality of how conflict warps society and punishes the most vulnerable and benefits the most corrupt. The veteran journalist is the recipient of 12 Canadian Screen Awards, consecutive RTDNA Awards, a Lifetime Achievement Award for Broadcasting and Journalism, and in 2023, the Gordon Sinclair Award for her, it quotes, exceptional body of work in broadcast journalism. That's a big deal. Lisa is a passionate advocate of democracy in journalism. She volunteers for Journalists for Human Rights and has traveled with the organization to the Democratic Republic of Congo to mentor young journalists in Goma, in the heart of the conflict zone. She serves as honorary co-chair of the annual Journalists for Human Rights Knights for Rights, and in 2022 was awarded the Journalists for Human Rights Award for Human Rights Reporting. Lisa is also an ambassador for Plan International and volunteers for Canadian Women for Women in Afghanistan. So you can see absolutely why I wanted to speak with you, Lisa, for this program.
I'm honored to be here with you today, Meryl.
Thank you so much. So Lisa, let's start with what favorite beverage did you bring for you today?
Oh, my favorite.
Did you bring something to drink?
Well, it's the middle of the afternoon for me, so I brought my favorite, which is a big cappuccino of frothy milk in my big favorite cup, vuela tan alto como puedas, which means fly as high as you can. So it's my morning pick-me-up, if you will, and also for an afternoon break. So I am definitely a coffee consumer.
Nice. And I understand the coffee that's in that cappuccino is from Kenya?
It is. I bought it when I was in Nairobi, and it's just delicious coffee, some of the best coffee in the world, actually, and all of it for a good cause. There's a big movement, as you well know. And this coffee was really, I'm not exactly certain of the farm world where it comes from, but it is the better coffee if you're trying to do something right for the world and still drink your coffee. So there you go.
Nice. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to post that in the notes where that's from. So, Lisa, have you always been a renegade?
I think about the word renegade, and I think I guess I always thought renegades were sort of a little dodgy with the law, so I would consider myself maybe more of a maverick, independent thinker, and maybe a bit unconventional. And I guess that I always have been that. I've always sort of been willing to take chances. In fact, my nieces and nephews always remind me that my motto has been break a rule a day, but not a law a day. Unless, of course, the rule is a safety rule about
Right.
height requirements on a roller coaster or something like that.
Yeah.
So, but I do think that sometimes rules do not have a foundation in common sense. So that's when I would sort of analyze it and say, I think I'm willing to take a risk on this one and go my own way. So I guess that makes me a renegade.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. And tell me about what impact being a renegade has had on your life and your career. What kinds of challenges, what kinds of obstacles has it presented?
I think it's actually been woven through every level of my life and my career, the willingness to take chances. I remember when I came from local news to national news, and about 2 minutes later, a job opened at the Moscow bureau and another one at the Beijing bureau. And I knew 100% that I was not qualified for either of those jobs because I was so new at covering national news. But I quickly started crash courses in both Russian and Mandarin so that I could go into those job interviews and sort of wow them with some language skills. Now, I did not get either of those jobs. Certainly veteran reporters got them, but I did ultimately go to both countries several times, Russia and China, and I was able to use some of the language that I learned those many years
That's wonderful.
for those job interviews. So it's just about willing to put yourself out there and take a risk.
Yes, and also you didn't get the jobs at first, but you got on the radar. And so it was really moving you forward, even though you didn't move into those positions right away.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really good point, because so often, why do we do things? Why do we put ourselves out there? It isn't, obviously we'd love to achieve our goal, but if we don't, we've had more experience in a job situation, job interview situation, and also you are on their radar for the next opportunity that comes around, and they think, oh, I wonder if she can learn Spanish as well, or something like that. So I always joke, when I was sent to cover a story in a Spanish-speaking country, I do speak Italian, but they said, do you speak Spanish? I said, I'll learn it on the plane. So there's no reason to say no to any assignment.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's really nice. So, Lisa, you've been quoted in, I think it was the New York Times, saying the comeback is way better than the setback. And so tell us about the comeback. I know you're involved in some really, really exciting and wonderful projects. So tell us what you're up to.
Oh, it's been a really exciting year, actually, an opportunity to take advantage of some of the incredible work that's being done on so many levels and give it more time. So I spent a month in Africa with Journalists for Human Rights, covering women's issues, really, examples of things that we fought 30 years ago and they are living with today. One of the stories, though, that I'd love to share that is still so much a part of my heart and my life is a girls' school, teenage moms. So during the pandemic, there was an epidemic of rapes in Kenya. Across Africa, but especially in this region of Kenya. And a woman who I consider a saint, Purity Gigunda, what a great name, Purity. She recognized what was happening, that all these girls who'd been, top of their class became pregnant as young as 13 years old. One girl was actually 11 years old. And they become outcasts in their homes, in their communities. So she created a school. Now she leases the land. It was at one point an old school. There's no electricity, and it's all based on donations. And when I went to that school, based on a tiny little article in a local Nairobi newspaper that caught our attention, it was absolutely overwhelming. At that time, there were 70 girls in their perfect uniforms. Their babies are living in a sort of an adobe compound right next door to the school. So on every break, they go back, feed their babies, come back. All the wash lines are full of baby clothes. It's all donation. This is all by little donation. It's a miracle, really. Now there's, of course, 400 girls on a waiting list. So we did this story, and I was so proud to say that we were able to raise enough money to allow a number of more girls to join that school. And it's really only $400 a year. That's your whole tuition, your uniform, and taking care of the baby. So it's really not a lot of money, and the impact is dramatic, because what does it do? It gives these girls a second chance. And I think I'm all about second chances.
Oh, absolutely. That's wonderful. And I'll be sure to put the link to that school in the notes, Lisa.
So the Greenland School for Teenage Mums.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And what else are you doing? What else are you involved in? I know there's an exciting project on the West Coast.
Yes, most recently I was in Vancouver doing a really special project with the great Phil Fontaine, former Grand Chief of the Assembly of First Nations, and his wife, the incredible Kathleen Mahoney, who is a human rights lawyer and a professor. And we were commissioned by University of Canada West to do a 6-part series on Indigenous history in Canada. So we go right back in a conversation style to before the Royal Proclamation of 1763. So really the very, very beginning, and how did we get to where we are today? So I don't know if it's the same for you, but I never learned this in grade school. I never learned it in high school. And now new Canadians don't learn it. So this will be a free 6-hour or six segment series, free online on YouTube, free through the university, where people can learn our own history. And it's also very emotional, because Phil himself is a residential school survivor, and he is incredibly candid and honest about what he experienced and the generational impact of secondary or of residential schools. It was a very powerful week to spend with them. We're just in the editing phases now, and I'm really excited for that project to see the light of day.
I will really look forward to hearing that. I first heard about the residential schools when we moved to Rankin Inlet in the mid-'80s. I was a new mom. I had a 3-week-old when I went up, and I actually met people like Jack Anawak up there who had gone to residential school, and I learned a lot about kind of the fallout of having a whole generation of people who had been through this system. And I know that across Canada, there are sometimes many generations, not just one generation, that had been through the residential school system. So it's so important to learn.
They never were raised with parents, because they were literally taken from their parents. So then when they graduated and became parents, they didn't know how to parent. I mean, it is such a tragic cycle. And I know that for most Canadians, they sort of woke up the day the news broke of the unmarked graves at Kamloops Residential School. And that was the moment that everybody said enough. And then, of course, we followed the Indigenous leaders in their trip to Rome to visit the Pope, looking for that apology. He came back to Canada and ultimately gave that apology and called it a cultural genocide. So it's progress. But now what can we do, all of us, to make sure that this reconciliation journey we're on lasts and does change the future? That's kind of what this project is all
Oh,
about, is what can
oh,
we do going forward. It means a lot to me,
mhm.
and I hope the curious will click on it when it is available, just to learn something
Oh,
like
it's
I
a
did.
huge privilege, I think, for all of us to learn this. So, yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you. Now, we're going to take a short break, but before we take the break, I wanted to ask you a question, give you time to think about it. And that is, Lisa, what type of kid were you in grade two?
Grade two.
Mhm.
Hi there, knock knock. It's Jen Salib Huber. I'm the host of the Midlife Feast podcast and community. My apologies for interrupting this renegade conversation with Meryl. But if you're like me and you like conversations that disrupt the status quo in midlife, I wanted to invite you to join my community, the Midlife Feast community, where we're disrupting diet culture and learning to manage menopause without diets and food rules. If you'd like to join us, use the code RENEGADE and save 20% off your first month. Now back to this renegade conversation.
Thanks, Lisa. So tell me, what kind of kid were you in grade two?
Well, in grade two, I think always in grade school, I was too chatty for the teacher's liking. And I feel like I was forever being reprimanded for chatting when I shouldn't have been. I have one vivid memory. Mrs. Clark in grade two used to send us to the blackboard if you were talking. And I went, and my best friend, we were on either side of the blackboard. And I was also a very emotional then and now. And when we were sent back to our seats, I remember the stream of tears down the blackboard. And I remember being incredibly embarrassed about that.
Aw.
I was also a public, even then, I think I started getting into public speaking. Every year there was a contest,
Mhm.
and it's singing contest, the Kiwanis Music Festival. And
Yeah.
I really did enjoy that, I guess. I mean, I'm sure I was nervous. I'm still nervous to this day in doing any kind of performance, but
Mhm.
it was where I started storytelling as well in grade two.
Uh-huh.
I loved writing. I'm certain I didn't know it was called journalism, but I
Mhm.
really do believe that it was way back then that
Mm.
curiosity became a big part of my brain, and I
Mhm.
just wanted to write things down, and I
Oh,
still.
that's wonderful.
So maybe it's true, if you show me the kid at 7, you'll see the man or the woman at 57. I don't know, but that's how it started for me. And so grade two was a bit fraught because, as I said, I was reprimanded, but it was also a good experience in the starting out in public speaking and
Oh,
singing.
it's wonderful. That's wonderful. I was telling you that I have my first memory, an early memory, is me of being about age 3, I think, of and standing and just singing at the top of my lungs with my arms spread out wide, and then being told that I had to be quiet and stop showing off. But it's funny because right now I'm working on a rug that is called Wild Woman Spreads Her Wings, and it's exactly that posture that I had that I remember in this memory.
And did you
So,
end up being a singer? Did you
well,
re-embrace it?
late in life, because when I was a kid, I was asked to leave choir, actually, because I was singing too loudly. I was extremely exuberant. I think, like you, most of my report cards said Meryl is very chatty. Right, so I always thought I couldn't sing because I was asked to leave the choir. And so it wasn't until I was a young mom, and I got a chance to sing in an a cappella group. And I just went along for the social part of it, and then became a good enough singer and enjoyed singing. Sang for about 15 years in this group. So
What a lesson that is, though, the
yeah,
power of a teacher's words that was said to you as a young child,
yeah,
and you sort of harbored that for so many
yeah.
years. So it's a lesson to teachers as well, that kids really do hear you, and it can change their lives for the better and the worse, you
And the
know.
worse. Exactly, exactly. So I have just a couple more questions for you, Lisa. Thank you so much. And the one question is there a line or a shape that would define you? It's my way of when I teach workshops, I get people to think outside the box and get unblocked on a creative level. So this is one of my questions that I often ask.
I think if I had a line that defined me, it would be, can it be the heart monitor?
Absolutely.
I mean, it really shows the peaks and valleys, which
Yeah.
is all of our lives. And I especially feel as a journalist, we definitely cover the good and the bad. And it sort of has been the cycle of my life. But also a heart monitor shows you're pumping. You're
Yeah, exactly. It's you're vibrant and you're alive. As long as the heart monitor isn't just this line right across, right?
I need a
We don't want that.
Not yet.
No, exactly. So, Lisa, what advice do you have for women who want to access more of their own inner selves or become more of their own renegade self? What would your advice be?
Oh my goodness. I mean, the advice I give is through the prism of, I'm 59 years old, and I would say, if I had learned self-acceptance a lot earlier in my life, it would have caused me a lot less stress later in life. So, and I understand it through social media and all of the advertising information we receive. It's hard to shut all that out. But I would say to young people, find something that I always thought I have to do 4 things a year that scare me. And I don't mean going in a dark alley. I mean, speaking in front of the public or singing or whatever. So my advice would be a little bolder, a little less guarded, perhaps. Believe in yourself and always be kinder, because we definitely go a lot further the kinder we are. But self-acceptance, if you could just open a bottle and out popped self-acceptance, wouldn't that be a product we'd all want to purchase and consume and live by? That really is the hardest job for people. But once you find it, it really does unleash something, your own inner self and your own bravery. So, and I guess I also say staying quiet doesn't help anyone. So if you it's like the London Underground. If you see it, say it. So if you see something wrong or right, expose it, say it, embrace it, or shut it down. And there's value in that.
I think so too. Yes. Thank you very much. I think that self-compassion really is the root of finding your inner wild self, isn't it? Because if we can treat ourselves like someone we love, then we are more likely to take chances, to be brave, to be kind to others, to try things that we don't feel confident in. So, yeah.
And I know there's probably people listening to this saying, oh, that's a lot easier said than done, which it is. And this is about working hard to recognize your strengths and focusing on them. And it makes a huge difference. And it is hard work.
It is hard work. And it's something that I have written about is that if you're finding that you're being hard on yourself more recently, is to think about, why is this happening and what do I need right now? Like maybe I need a nap, or maybe I need to call a friend who is my best supporter, or something like that, just to really just treat yourself kindly, and not talk to yourself like you wouldn't talk to someone that you loved in this way. So don't talk to yourself that way. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. This was really, really lovely. And I really thank you for taking a chance on me, for being my first guest. And listen, what was I thinking?
And I love your series. I have the piece right behind me on my wall, which I look at every single day, the Wild Woman series. You have such a huge talent, and your message behind each piece of work really resonates with me and so many others. It's life writ large.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I wanted to thank our sponsor, Dr. Jen Salop-Huber, the menopause nutritionist. And coming soon on Renegade Conversations, I've got some really fun conversations coming up. I'm going to be speaking with Canadian comedian Martha Chavez, and also Dr. Stephanie Stobie. She's a specialist in Asian peace and conflict studies, and she's basically the mover and shaker behind this really incredible Hearts of Freedom project. So if you haven't heard of that project, look it up, and we will be speaking with Stephanie soon. And I hope that this episode has left you feeling inspired and ready to channel your own inner wild woman. And if you need a little help getting started, please reach out to me, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Renegade Conversations.